The last $20 in Patrick Quinn's wallet felt like a weight of judgment as he stood in the grocery store aisle, calculating which necessities he could afford and which would have to wait until next payday. He juggled his shopping list in one hand and his 5-year-old daughter Emma's small fingers in the other, her innocent chatter about cartoon characters a stark contrast to the anxious math happening in his head. "Daddy, can we get the rainbow cereal?" Emma's hopeful blue eyes looked up at him, a mirror of her mother's, a painful reminder of the woman who had walked out on them 3 years ago. "Not today, sweetheart," Patrick said gently, kneeling to her level. "But I promise we'll make pancakes tomorrow morning, with banana faces just how you like them." Emma's momentary disappointment vanished with his promise, replaced by an excited grin that made the constant struggle of single fatherhood worthwhile. Patrick ruffled her blonde curls and stood, mentally crossing cereal off the list and reaching for the store-brand pasta instead. At 32, Patrick hadn't imagined his life would look like this, working 2 jobs to keep a roof over their heads in a 1-bedroom apartment where he slept on the pull-out couch. Before Emma, he'd been a promising architectural drafter, but when his ex-wife Megan abandoned them, he'd been forced to take whatever jobs would accommodate single parenthood. Now, he worked mornings at a construction site and evenings as a janitor at a corporate office building, with just enough time in between to pick Emma up from daycare. "We need milk and eggs, princess. Let's head to the back," Patrick said, guiding Emma through the Saturday afternoon crowd. The store was packed with weekend shoppers, many with carts overflowing with items Patrick couldn't justify buying. As they navigated toward the dairy section, Patrick noticed a woman attempting to balance an unwieldy stack of paper grocery bags. She was elegantly dressed cashmere coat, sleek dark hair pulled into a sophisticated knot, but clearly struggling with her purchases. Even as he watched, the bottom of one bag began to tear. "Emma, stay right here for just 1 second," Patrick instructed, positioning her by their cart. "Daddy needs to help someone." He quickly made his way to the woman just as the bag split entirely, sending apples rolling across the floor. "Let me help you with those," Patrick offered, already kneeling to gather the escaping produce. The woman looked momentarily startled, then relieved. "That's very kind, thank you," she replied, and Patrick noticed immediately that her voice carried a soft, melodic quality that somehow cut through the noise of the busy store. "Happens to the best of us," Patrick said with a warm smile, retrieving an apple that had rolled under a display. "Paper bags are economical but treacherous." As he stood, he got a better look at her. She was around his age, with striking amber eyes and features that seemed both delicate and determined. Her makeup was minimal but impeccable, and despite her obvious wealth evidenced by the subtle diamond studs in her ears and the designer label peeking from her coat, there was nothing haughty in her expression. "I'm Vivian," she said, adjusting her grip on the remaining bags. "Vivian Lang." "Patrick Quinn," he replied, carefully redistributing her groceries into the bags he was now holding. "And that's my daughter Emma over there, supervising." Vivian glanced toward Emma, who waved enthusiastically. She smiled and waved back. "She's adorable. How old?" 5 going on 15, Patrick laughed, full of opinions and questions about everything. "The best age," Vivian said with genuine warmth. "I work with children's education initiatives. They're remarkably insightful at that age." Patrick nodded, thinking of Emma's uncanny ability to cut through his pretenses on difficult days. "She certainly sees right through me." "Daddy," Emma called, clearly deciding she'd been patient enough. "The milk, duty calls," Patrick said apologetically to Vivian. "Can I help you to your car first?" "Actually," Vivian hesitated, "my driver is waiting outside, but he had to park some distance away due to the crowd, if it's not too much trouble." "Not at all," Patrick assured her, gesturing for Emma to join them. "We haven't gotten to the dairy section yet anyway. Emma, this is Miss Lang. We're going to help her take her groceries to her car, okay?" Emma skipped over, immediately launching into conversation with Vivian about her kindergarten project on butterflies. Patrick marveled at his daughter's complete lack of shyness as they made their way to the exit, pushing their nearly empty cart alongside Vivian's overflowing bags. Outside, The autumn air carried a crisp chill. Patrick spotted a sleek black car idling near the far end of the lot, a uniformed driver standing beside it. "That's Francis," Vivian explained, following his gaze. "He'd have come in, but I insisted on doing my own shopping. I find it grounding." Patrick nodded, understanding more than she probably realized. When everything else in life felt unpredictable, there was something reassuring about selecting your own food, making those small choices for yourself. As they approached the car, Francis moved quickly to take the bags, his professional demeanor softening as Emma enthusiastically recounted the saga of the rolling apples. "Thank you again," Vivian said to Patrick, her eyes meeting his with unexpected intensity. Not many people would take the time. Patrick shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. Just being neighborly. Vivian appeared to make a decision. She reached into her purse and withdrew a business card, offering it to him. "I realize this might seem forward, but I'm hosting a charity event for children's literacy next weekend. It's family-friendly, there will be activities for kids Emma's age. You should both come." Patrick accepted the card automatically, though he knew immediately it was the kind of event where he wouldn't belong. The card was heavy, cream-colored stock with embossed lettering. "Vivian Lang, CEO, Lang Foundation." "I'm not really dressed for charity galas these days," he said lightly, trying to mask his discomfort. "It's casual," Vivian insisted. "Really? And I could use someone there who actually talks to me like a normal person instead of a walking checkbook." Her smile turned rueful. "Please consider it." Before Patrick could formulate a polite refusal, Emma tugged at his sleeve. "Can we go, Daddy, please? Miss Vivian said there'd be kids my age." Caught between his daughter's hopeful expression and Vivian's expectant one, Patrick found himself nodding. "We'll try to make it." "Wonderful," Vivian replied, her smile brightening. "The details are all on the back of the card. I'll look forward to seeing you both there." As Francis closed the car door behind Vivian, Patrick stood with Emma in the parking lot, wondering what exactly he had agreed to. "She's pretty, Daddy," Emma declared with the straightforward assessment of a 5-year-old. Patrick tucked the business card into his pocket. "Yes, she is. Now let's go get that milk before the store closes." Throughout the following week, Patrick found Vivian Lang unexpectedly present in his thoughts. During his pre-dawn shifts at the construction site, he caught himself wondering about her life. The Lang Foundation was evidently significant. A quick internet search had revealed it was a billion-dollar philanthropic organization focused on education and poverty alleviation. Vivian had inherited it from her father 2 years prior and had since expanded its reach internationally. It made their chance meeting seem all the more surreal. What were the odds that he, scraping by on minimum wage, would encounter someone whose annual charitable giving probably exceeded what he'd earned in several lifetimes? By Thursday, Patrick had resolved not to attend the event. What had seemed like a kind invitation in the moment now felt like an awkward collision of worlds. He worked late cleaning executive offices, imagining Vivian in similar sophisticated spaces, moving with the confidence of someone who belonged there. But on Friday afternoon, as he picked Emma up from daycare, she greeted him with a construction paper butterfly she'd made. "It's for Miss Vivian," she announced. "For tomorrow's party." Patrick felt his resolve crumble. "Emma, honey, I don't think we'll be going to that party." Emma's face fell immediately. "But you promised," she said, her lower lip trembling slightly. "And I told Miss Garcia I was going to a fancy party with butterflies." Patrick sighed, knowing he was beaten. He'd never been good at disappointing Emma, especially over experiences that other children might take for granted. "Okay, butterfly girl, we'll go, but just for a little while." The address on Vivian's card led them to a community center in a mixed-income neighborhood on Saturday afternoon. Patrick was surprised he'd expected some exclusive venue downtown. As they approached the entrance, he saw colorful banners announcing the Books and Butterflies Literacy Festival. Inside, the large space had been transformed into a vibrant celebration of reading. Stations for different activities were set up around the room: puppet making, story circles, a butterfly garden crafts area, and even a small stage where authors were reading from children's books. Families of all backgrounds milled about, and Patrick felt his tension ease slightly. Emma spotted the butterfly crafts immediately and tugged him in that direction. As they approached, Patrick saw Vivian kneeling beside a young boy, helping him attach tissue paper wings to a clothespin butterfly. She wore jeans and a simple blue sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, so different from the polished businesswoman he'd met at the grocery store, yet somehow even more striking in her casual attire. She looked up as they approached, and her face brightened. "You came," she exclaimed, standing. "I'm so glad." "We brought you something," Emma announced, proudly presenting her paper butterfly. Vivian accepted it with a look of genuine delight. "This is beautiful, Emma. You know what? You're just the expert we need at the butterfly crafts table. Would you like to help teach the other kids?" Emma nodded enthusiastically, immediately comfortable in this new role. Patrick watched as Vivian introduced her to the volunteers at the table, his daughter's confidence blooming under the attention. "This is amazing," Patrick said when Vivian returned to his side. "Not what I expected. Too low-key for a billionaire," Vivian asked with a wry smile, though Patrick detected a hint of defensiveness in her tone. "Actually, I meant it's better than I expected," he clarified. "More authentic." "The kids seem really engaged." Vivian's expression softened. "That's the whole point. We bring books and literacy activities to neighborhoods where public libraries have been closed or underfunded. Today, we're celebrating our 15th location." 15. "That's impressive," Patrick said, genuinely interested. "How did you get started with this?" "My father began the foundation," Vivian explained as they walked toward a refreshment table, "but this specific program was my idea. I grew up with every advantage, including a house full of books, but I saw how many children never get that opportunity." As she spoke, Patrick noticed how her professional poise gave way to passionate enthusiasm. She outlined the research showing the impact of early literacy, the partnerships they'd built with local teachers, and the expansion plans for the coming year. Patrick found himself drawn not just to her beauty, but to her clear sense of purpose. "Sorry," she said suddenly, pausing mid-sentence. "I'm monopolizing the conversation with foundation talk. Tell me about you and Emma." Patrick hesitated, unaccustomed to talking about himself. "Not much to tell. I work construction by day, clean offices at night, and in between, I try to give Emma some semblance of normalcy." "That sounds like a lot to manage alone," Vivian said, her eyes reflecting genuine understanding rather than pity. Patrick shrugged. "You do what you have to. Emma's mom left when she was 2, decided family life wasn't for her after all." "I'm sorry," Vivian said softly. "That must have been devastating." "It was," Patrick admitted, surprised by his own candor, "but Emma and I figured it out. We're a good team." They watched as Emma carefully helped a smaller child with scissors, her face serious with concentration. "She's remarkable," Vivian observed. "Very nurturing for her age. Sometimes too grown up," Patrick said with a touch of regret. "She shouldn't have to be so responsible yet." Vivian turned to face him directly. "You know, we're always looking for parent perspectives on our programs. We pay consulting fees for focus groups. If you'd be interested." Patrick recognized the offer for what it was, a tactful way to offer financial help without wounding his pride. "That's kind of you," he said carefully, "but I don't need charity." "It's not charity," Vivian countered firmly. "It's valuable input. We have plenty of wealthy donors telling us what they think children need, but not enough parents who understand the real challenges families face." Before Patrick could respond, Emma ran up with a woman Patrick assumed was one of the event organizers. "Daddy, Miss Emara says I can help read a story on the stage. Can I, please?" Patrick looked at the woman questioningly. She smiled reassuringly. "She has a wonderful reading voice, and we need a child to help with the call and response parts of our next book. I promise I'll be right there with her." "Go ahead, Butterfly," Patrick agreed, watching proudly as Emma skipped away, already deep in conversation with her new mentor. "She's a natural performer," Vivian remarked. "Has she always been so outgoing?" Patrick nodded, keeping his eyes on Emma as she climbed the small stage steps. "She gets that from her mother, actually. The one good thing she left behind." They watched together as Emma helped lead a group of children in a rhythmic reading exercise, her clear voice carrying confidently across the room. About that focus group, Vivian said quietly. We meet Tuesday evenings at 6. There's free childcare and we provide dinner. No strings attached, I promise. Patrick glanced at her, considering. His instinct was still to refuse, but a more practical voice reminded him that extra income, even modest, would help with Emma's growing needs. And there had been genuine respect in Vivian's voice when she spoke of wanting his perspective. I'll think about it, he said finally. Vivian smiled, satisfied with this concession. That's all I ask. The rest of the afternoon passed quickly. Emma participated in nearly every activity, collecting books and craft projects with equal enthusiasm. Patrick found himself drawn into conversations with other parents and volunteers, discussing everything from school districts to favorite childhood stories. Throughout it all, he was aware of Vivian moving through the space greeting donors, helping children, directing volunteers, but she repeatedly found her way back to where he stood, sharing observations or introducing him to others involved with the foundation. As the event wound down and families began to leave, Emma approached with her arms full of books and crafts, her face glowing with excitement. Daddy, Miss Vivian said we could take home any books we wanted. I got 5. That's very generous, Patrick said, looking to Vivian, who had followed Emma over. Say thank you to Miss Lang. Actually, Vivian interjected, every child takes home books from our events. It's part of our mission. Still, Patrick insisted, thank you for inviting us. Emma's had a wonderful time. He hesitated, then added, we both have. Vivian's smile reached her eyes. I'm glad, and I hope I'll see you Tuesday. Here's the address for the focus group. She handed him another business card, this one with an address handwritten on the back. 6 o'clock, if you can make it. Patrick accepted the card, no longer feeling the instinctive resistance he'd experienced earlier. We'll be there, he found himself saying. As they walked to the bus stop, Emma chattering excitedly about her new books, Patrick realized how long it had been since he'd enjoyed himself at a social event, how refreshing it felt to be valued for his thoughts rather than pitied for his circumstances. And if he was being entirely honest with himself, there was something about Vivian Lang that intrigued him beyond her wealth or position. There was an authenticity to her passion, a groundedness that seemed to transcend the vast differences in their lives. Tuesday arrived, and despite a grueling morning shift where a delivery delay had forced everyone to work through lunch, Patrick found himself looking forward to the evening. He picked Emma up from daycare and took her directly to the Foundation's office, building a converted warehouse in a recently revitalized part of the city. Inside, the space was warm and inviting, with exposed brick walls covered in children's artwork and comfortable furniture grouped in conversation areas. A receptionist greeted them with a warmth that immediately set Patrick at ease. Mr. Quinn, Miss Lang mentioned you'd be joining us. The childcare room is just through there, Miss Emma. They're making space dioramas tonight if you're interested. Emma's eyes widened at the prospect, and after Patrick signed the necessary forms, she happily joined the small group of children already engaged in craft projects under the supervision of 2 energetic caregivers. Patrick was directed to a conference room where several other parents were already seated around a large table. Simple but appetizing food was laid out on a side counter: sandwiches, salads, and fresh fruit. He helped himself to a plate, surprised by the quality of the offerings. First time. Asked a woman seated near him, her friendly smile inviting conversation. That obvious, Patrick replied with a self-deprecating laugh. Only because I remember my first time here. I'm Teresa. My kids are 9 and 11 now, but I've been part of these focus groups since they were in preschool. Patrick, my daughter Emma is 5. Teresa nodded approvingly. Perfect age to get involved. The foundation does amazing work, and they actually listen to us regular folks. Before Patrick could respond, Vivian entered the room, accompanied by a man carrying a laptop and several folders. She was dressed in business casual attire, tailored pants, and a simple blouse, but her face lit up when she spotted Patrick among the group. Welcome, everyone, she said, addressing the room but with a warm glance in his direction. For those who haven't met me yet, I'm Vivian Lang. This is Derek, our program evaluator. Tonight we're discussing our summer reading initiative design. For the next hour, Patrick found himself engaged in a thoughtful discussion about effective ways to keep children reading during school breaks. The parents around the table represented diverse backgrounds and experiences, but all shared insights about the challenges their children faced. When Patrick mentioned his difficulty finding time to take Emma to the library between his two jobs, several others nodded in recognition of the problem. What if the program included a mobile component, he suggested. Something that could visit apartment complexes or community centers on evenings and weekends. Like a book mobile, Derek asked, taking notes. Exactly, but maybe more interactive. Emma loves the reading experience sitting with someone, asking questions about the story. Books alone aren't enough for kids her age. Vivian looked thoughtful. We could adapt our volunteer model to include reading sessions at each stop. She made a note on her tablet, then smiled at Patrick. That's exactly the kind of practical suggestion we need. The discussion continued, with other parents building on the idea and identifying potential locations in underserved neighborhoods. Patrick found himself increasingly engaged, drawing on his experiences not only as Emma's father, but also from his observations of other struggling families in their apartment building. By the time the session ended, Patrick felt a sense of accomplishment he hadn't experienced in years. His ideas had been taken seriously, valued not despite but because of his circumstances. As the other parents filed out, Vivian approached him. "You were brilliant in there," she said. "Derek's already drafting a proposal based on your mobile library idea." Patrick felt a flush of pride. "It was just common sense. Common sense informed by lived experience," Vivian corrected. "That's exactly what we need more of." They walked together toward the childcare room, where Emma was proudly displaying her space diorama to the other children. "Would you and Emma like a ride home?" Vivian offered. "Francis is waiting downstairs." Patrick's first instinct was to decline. The bus would be fine, he told himself, but Emma's excited reaction to seeing Vivian made him reconsider. "That would be nice, thank you," he agreed, "but only if it's not out of your way." "Not at all," Vivian assured him. In the car, Emma described her diorama in elaborate detail, with Francis occasionally commenting from the driver's seat about the accuracy of her planetary arrangement. Patrick provided their address somewhat reluctantly, aware that their neighborhood would reveal the true extent of their financial situation. As they approached the modest apartment complex, Patrick felt a familiar tension return. The building wasn't dilapidated, but it was clearly budget. Housing, the playground equipment was outdated, the exterior paint fading. "This is us," he said as Francis pulled up to the entrance. "Thanks for the ride." "Actually," Vivian said, "would it be all right if I came up for a moment?" "I'd love to see Emma's book collection after all her excitement about reading today." Patrick hesitated, torn between embarrassment about their small apartment and a genuine desire to extend their time together. Emma made the decision for him. "Yes. I can show you my special shelf that Daddy built me," she exclaimed. "Just for a few minutes then," Patrick agreed, leading them up 3 flights of stairs since the elevator was perpetually out of order. The apartment was small but meticulously organized. Patrick had done his best to create defined spaces within the limited area, a sleeping nook for Emma with colorful curtains offering privacy, a compact dining table that doubled as his work surface, and a pull-out sofa where he slept. "This is lovely," Vivian said, and Patrick was surprised to hear sincerity rather than polite condescension in her voice. "You've made such good use of the space." Emma immediately led Vivian to her bookshelf, a simple structure Patrick had built from salvaged wood and painted in rainbow colors. Her collection was modest but cherished, each book carefully arranged. While Emma showed Vivian her favorites, Patrick quickly tidied the kitchenette, embarrassed by the breakfast dishes he hadn't had time to wash that morning. "You built this shelf?" Vivian asked when he rejoined them. Patrick nodded. "Before Emma, I studied architectural drafting. I still like to build things when I can find the materials." "It's beautiful work," Vivian said, running her hand along the smooth edge. "Have you ever thought about pursuing that professionally?" Patrick gave a short laugh. "Single parenthood doesn't leave much room for career aspirations. The construction job pays the bills, mostly." Vivian seemed about to say something else when Emma yawned widely, the day's excitement finally catching up with her. "I should let you get to your evening routine," Vivian said, recognizing the cue. "But Patrick, would you be interested in continuing with our focus group? We meet twice a month, and as Teresa mentioned, there is a stipend." "I would, yes," Patrick replied without hesitation. "I enjoyed it more than I expected." "Wonderful," Vivian said, her smile warm. "And perhaps, this weekend, if you're free, there's a new interactive children's museum exhibit opening. My foundation sponsored it, so I have tickets. Emma might enjoy it." Patrick recognized the invitation for what it was: not just a chance for Emma to experience the museum, but an opportunity for him and Vivian to spend more time together. Despite the voice in his head warning him about the impracticality of any connection between them, he found himself nodding. "Emma would love that," he said. "And so would I." "Perfect. I'll text you the details. Do you mind if I get your number?" They exchanged contact information, and Patrick walked Vivian back to the waiting car, aware of a new sense of possibility that had been absent from his life for too long. Over the following weeks, a pattern emerged. Patrick and Emma joined Vivian for weekend outings, the Children's Museum, a botanical garden butterfly exhibition, a puppet show at the community theater. Each time, Patrick expected to feel out of place in Vivian's world, but she had a gift for selecting activities where everyone felt comfortable, where wealth and status seemed irrelevant. He continued participating in the Foundation's focus groups, his confidence growing as his suggestions were implemented in real programs. The stipend, while modest, allowed him to build a small emergency fund for the first time since Emma was born. More surprisingly, Vivian began finding reasons to visit their apartment, bringing children's books for Emma's evaluation before they were added to the Foundation's collection, dropping off materials for focus group review, or simply bringing takeout dinner on evenings when she knew Patrick worked late. She never commented on their circumstances or offered financial help directly, understanding instinctively that Patrick's pride was both his strength and his vulnerability. Instead, she found ways to make their connection feel balanced, asking his advice on building designs for a new community center, valuing his practical insights about the families the Foundation served. One evening in late November, after Emma had fallen asleep, Patrick and Vivian sat at his small kitchen table, sharing leftover Chinese food and discussing plans for a holiday book drive. "I've been thinking," Vivian said cautiously, "about your background in architectural drafting. The Foundation is planning several new buildings next year, and our current design team doesn't have anyone with your practical construction experience." Patrick set down his fork, immediately wary. "Vivian, I appreciate the thought, but I don't need a job created for me out of pity." "This isn't pity," Vivian replied firmly. "It's recognition of talent. I've seen your sketches, Patrick. The playhouse design you drew up for the community center is better than anything our paid consultants produced. I'd be hiring you because you're good, not because She stopped abruptly. "Because you what?" Patrick asked quietly. Vivian met his eyes directly. "Because I care about you, and Emma. More than I expected to when you helped me with my groceries that day." The simple honesty of her statement disarmed him. Over these weeks, he had been fighting his growing feelings for her, telling himself that their worlds were too different, that someone like Vivian Lang couldn't possibly see a future with someone like him. "I care about you too," he admitted. "But I don't know how this works, Vivian. You're you, and I'm a guy who calculates whether he can afford name-brand pasta." "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" Vivian asked, reaching across the table to take his hand. "I see someone who never gives up, who puts his daughter first no matter what, who has more integrity and genuine kindness than most of the wealthy people I deal with daily." Patrick felt a tightness in his chest. "And I see someone extraordinary who could have anyone she wanted." "I want someone real," Vivian said simply. "Someone who sees me, not my bank account. From that first day, you've never treated me differently because of my position. Do you know how rare that is?" Patrick considered her words, realizing that in their time together, Vivian's wealth had become increasingly irrelevant to how he saw her. He valued her compassion, her intelligence, the way she listened intently to Emma's stories, her dedication to making a difference in others' lives. "I'd like to try," he said finally. "This us, but we have to be realistic. Emma has to come first, and I won't become dependent on you financially. I need to stand on my own." "I wouldn't want it any other way," Vivian assured him. "The job offer is real, with a real salary based on industry standards. Take it or don't, but know it's based on your abilities. As for us." She squeezed his hand. "We'll take it one day at a time," Patrick nodded, feeling both terrified and exhilarated by the possibility opening before him. "One day at a time," he agreed. Their first kiss, when it came moments later, felt both inevitable and surprising, a confirmation of everything that had been building between them and a promise of what might come next. 6 months later, Patrick stood in the newly completed children's library he had helped design, watching as Emma proudly showed Vivian her favorite reading nook, a window seat Patrick had specifically included, because Emma had once mentioned wanting a special place to read, like princesses have in castles. His life had transformed in ways he could never have imagined that day in the grocery store. He now worked full-time for the Lang Foundation as a design consultant, his practical knowledge of construction and his natural drafting abilities proving to be a valuable combination. His salary allowed him to move Emma to a 2-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood, though he had insisted on finding a place they could afford on his income alone. His relationship with Vivian had deepened steadily, built on mutual respect and genuine compatibility that transcended their different backgrounds. She had become not just a partner to him but a co-nurturer for Emma, never trying to replace the mother who had abandoned them but creating her own loving bond with his daughter. "What do you think?" Vivian asked, joining him by the library entrance. "Does the final version live up to your design?" "It's better," Patrick replied honestly. "Seeing children actually using it makes all the difference." They watched as Emma helped a younger child select a picture book, her natural nurturing instinct evident in her patient explanations. "She's going to be a wonderful big sister someday," Vivian observed casually, though Patrick caught the question implicit in her statement. "Is that something you think about?" he asked carefully. "A family with me," Vivian turned to face him directly. "All the time," she admitted. "But I know it's complicated. Your experience with Emma's mother is nothing like what we have," Patrick finished for her. "Megan and I married young, before we really knew ourselves. She never wanted the responsibilities of parenthood, she just didn't realize it until Emma was born." He took Vivian's hands in his. "You're different, we're different. We've built something real, something based on who we actually are, not who we think we should be." Vivian's eyes shimmered with emotion. "So you've thought about it too, a future together." Patrick smiled, feeling a certainty he hadn't experienced in years. "Every day since you invited us to that first literacy event, I was just waiting until I felt like you're equal not in money, but in what I could offer to a partnership." "You've always been my equal," Vivian insisted. "From the moment you stopped to help me with my groceries without having any idea who I was. That man, the one who would help anyone without expecting anything in return, who puts his daughter before himself every single day, that's who I fell in love with." "And I love you," Patrick said, the words feeling right and true. "Your compassion, your determination to make a difference, the way you've embraced Emma and me exactly as we are." Around them, the library buzzed with activity, children discovering books, parents reading aloud, volunteers guiding activities, all made possible by their combined vision. "So where do we go from here?" Vivian asked, her expression open and hopeful. Patrick glanced at Emma, now deeply engaged in reading to her new friend, then back to Vivian. "Forward together," he said simply. "One day at a time, building something lasting just like we did with this library." Vivian's smile held all the promise he needed. "I'd like that," she said. "Very much." As Emma looked up and waved to them both, Patrick felt the pieces of his life so long fragmented by struggle and sacrifice finally coming together into something stronger and more beautiful than he had dared to imagine. The woman who had once seemed so far removed from his world had become the heart of it, proving that sometimes the most unexpected encounters could lead to the most perfect outcomes. And it had all begun with a torn paper bag and a handful of rolling apples.